Road users continue to increase within Zimbabwe's borders and beyond. This, in turn, exposes people to accidents. Many have lost their lives in various road traffic accidents countrywide, whilst others have had permanent injuries. According to the Minister of Transport and Infrastructural Development, at least 5 people die every day as a result of a road traffic accident across the country. And recently, at least 22 people lost their lives along the Bulawayo Beitbridge Highway after a Toyota Quantum on its way to South Africa collided head-on with a haulage truck barely hours after another accident had claimed 6 lives, injuring 3 people near Rutenga on the Masvingo Beitbridge Highway. Unfortunately, most accident victims are not aware of the compensation they may be entitled to, which is why we have come up with this episode to educate the public on how to exercise their rights when injured in road traffic accidents. We know that people can also get injured through occupational accidents, but tonight we want to focus on road traffic accidents. This is what we want to discuss, the processes of seeking compensation for losses incurred in accidents. And I'm happy to be joined in the studio by Vekithemba Mlauzi, who is the founder and director of Lawyers with Disabilities. He is a regular on this show whenever we need a legal counsel. Good evening, Vekithemba, and welcome to the program.
Good evening, listeners. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. If you want to be part of this discussion, or if you have a question, please feel free to send in your contributions via our WhatsApp platform on 0772 162 651 0772 162 651. You can also join us live on Facebook on our Star FM Zimbabwe page. So, Vekithemba, before we get into our discussion, maybe people would want to understand, if we're talking about compensation, what exactly are we talking about? What does it mean?
The word compensation refers to a lot of things in different circumstances. For today, however, we are talking about compensation that comes from injury caused by road traffic accidents. As you said earlier on, there is also compensation that emanates from injury on duty, which is a form of an accident, but it's not a road traffic accident. So when you are compensated, you are made good for the injuries that occurred to you as a person whilst you were using a motor vehicle as a driver, as a passenger, or as another road user.
Indeed, if you're just joining us, the time is 22 minutes to 9. It is the Disability Factor, and thank you for making us your station of choice. So I'm talking to Vekithemba Mlauzi, the founder and director of Lawyers with Disabilities, as we discuss compensation for road traffic accidents. What are the steps that one should take kana kuri kunzi asangana netsaona akuara zvakaipisisa, and sometimes others even acquire disabilities. So tikuda kunzwisisa kuti ndezvipi zvinofanira kuitwa kuti munhu ange achiwanawo those compensation count ngati muripo wekuti asangana netsaona iyi wacho anofanira kuripa ndiani, and how do we go about those whole process yekuti tinge tichisvika pakuti ndazowanawo muripo uyu. We have seen so many cases dzichiendawo kumatare edzimhosva. Gweta redu richatibatsira vachatsanangurirawo mamwe macases akambobudirirawo, so that you're also encouraged pamwe kune vanenge vachida kuti vazenge vachitora matano iwawo kulavo ke abasanda kusukuma. namhlanje ke sikhuluma ngendaba yokuthi umuntu athole ukuhlawulwa nxa ehlanganeke lengozi eyokungqikilana kwezimota kumbe ukubhewuka kwezimota umuntu ke abeselimala. Inhlawulo le ibhadalwa ngubani, uyithola njani, yiziphi indlela kumbe amanyathelo okumele uwathathe ukuze ke uthole inhlawulo le? Silalo ke igqwetha ubeke ithemba Mlawuzi ozasichasisela ama processes wonke lawo okumele ke alandelwe. So beke ithemba, in case of road traffic accidents, what needs to be done for one to start this process of claiming compensation, and what are some of the hurdles that come with this process?
The starting point always is attendance by the Zimbabwe Republic Police, the traffic section, who in terms of our laws have got a duty and an obligation to investigate and sometimes just merely record all road traffic accidents. So once a traffic accident has been recorded and has been reported, the next stage is to do the documentation. Sometimes it leads to prosecution by way of a docket that is opened by the police. Sometimes an accident is merely reported. Nobody may be charged depending on circumstances. So immediately after that, it then depends on the extent to which the parties have been injured. I will use the example of the most recent road traffic accident. Okay, so you'll find that assuming people were merely injured, maybe they've been taken to hospital, maybe they are deceased, as is the case with these 22. So what then happens is that one, if it's the person who has been injured, if he is conscious, he needs to start the process of completing the relevant documentation with the insurance company. I'm sure we are all aware that in terms of our laws, people must have insurance when using vehicles. There is the ordinary insurance for private vehicles, and there is a passenger service insurance for passenger service vehicles. So if you are using a public service vehicle or a passenger service vehicle, then there is compensation for passengers. But going back to the key question, the next thing is when the police do their investigation, they always ask for documentation that shows that a car is insured. Yes. So this is how...
Okay, this information comes from who now? I am the victim and I'm going through this process. Who is then supposed to provide that information?
I was going to explain that the police officer carries out investigations. So your point of contact is the police, because they are the ones who are custodians who check, is the person licensed, does the person have adequate papers in terms of the vehicle being registered to be on the road, is it fully paid for the term, is it insured, and if so, what type of insurance and which company, given that there are so many companies that insure motor vehicles. So if you have been injured, this is your point of contact. That's where you get this information about the insurance and also the completion of the forms, the claim forms for insurance.
And maybe the challenges that also come with this process.
Yes. Before we get to the challenges, isn't it? You would then have to complete this form. After completing the form, you take it to the insurance company together with the police report. There is usually a police report that outlines what has become of the the accident, which is called the outcome of the accident. Okay, so which clearly states who is being charged. In other words, who is being prosecuted for the accident, if there is one. And then the insurance from there, they will then make an assessment of your claim so that they can then pay.
Okay. And are there any chances of this compensation claim being deemed worthless, or and what would be the reasons? Ukuthi usuhambile waya fill amaform lawana, wenza all the process, and then they just set it aside and say, no, we can't deal with this one.
Ye into yabisenzakala khonapho ukuthi mhlawumbe umuntu lo insurance yakhe is expired, ngoba remember insurance is renewed either every term or per year depending on circumstances. So obviously if the insurance is expired, then there is nothing that the insurance company can do. The other thing, situations that I've come across is where maybe people were using the Zim dollar long back and now the currencies have changed. I know it's rare in some countries, but it has affected many people in our country. Yes. Sometimes also people tend to delay in making their claims, either because of ukungazi ukuthi kumele benze njani, kumbe just mere negligence, it delay nje yabesenziwa ngabantu. And the other thing is, in terms of the Road Traffic Act, a claim that is less than $50 is not entertained. I'm sure maybe the paperwork that goes with the claim could be maybe 2-3 times more the more than the $50.
Or maybe you can also try and explain to us there, how are these amounts determined when you're making this claim?
Right, these amounts are determined by the Road Traffic Act in some situations. Off my end, I remember there must be a section 36 or something of the Road Traffic Act which stipulates certain amounts. I don't have them off my head. Yes. But I know, if I recall, the last time I read, there was some 2,000 and some 350.
Okay.
US dollars, yes. So a lot also depends on the type of insurance that the vehicle is insured on. Remember, kule third-party insurance, and then there is comprehensive, and then there are requirements for passenger service vehicles.
Okay, so here is one person boarding Shika Shika. What is the responsibility of the passenger in this regard? I'm boarding this combi, I'm traveling to, for example, Bulawayo, and am I in a position as a passenger to ask from the crew that please show me all this documentation, so that in the event that something happens, we know where to start from?
For passenger service vehicles that are properly registered, they have a duty to display their insurance at the usual place where vehicles display their licenses. So for the world to see, I would use that term, that they are properly insured, isn't it? But like you are saying, that the challenge that we have is these days people want to travel fast, and then they will jump into any vehicle. They don't care.
Without even checking.
Yes, without even thinking about it, as long as it is taking them to Bulawayo or to wherever they are going. So it is the duty of the passenger to make sure that the passenger is vigilant, protects their life. And they protect their life by making sure that they jump into a vehicle that is properly registered. And I'm not so sure if we all know that passenger service vehicles have got white plates with red numbers. Those are the duly registered number plates of passenger service vehicles. Anything that is not registered in that way is a private vehicle, and the rules of compensation differ.
Okay.
So it's very, very important that if you are a passenger, you get to understand the risks that you are taking.
nguva dzedu dzasvika pana 10 minutes to 9 chirongwa disability factor patiri kukurukura nyaya dzemiripo yatinokwanisa kuwana kana tichinge tasangana netsaona dzemumigwagwa. Ndeapi matanho atinofanira kutora kuti tinge tichiwana mari idzodzidzi. Ndiri kukurukura negweta vaVekitemba Mlauzi vari kutitsanangurira maprocesses kana kuti matanho atinofanira kutora kuti tinge tichikwanisa kuwana mari idzodzidzi. Kune vamwe vanogona kufunga Mr. Mlauzi kuti this is just a waste of time, it's the processes are just hectic. Maybe if you can just share just a few successful applications for those compensation claims.
Yeah, of the cases that I have handled, I think I have one client, unfortunately I can't mention names,
Yes.
who was paid $20,000 for injury in a road traffic accident. Others, 2 or 3, have received less than that. A lot depends on the type of injury that you have and the threat to your life. Yes.
And what laws or which laws speak to the compensation of persons who might have been injured in a road traffic accident, particularly those that then acquire a disability or a permanent injury?
Yes. In terms of road traffic accidents, there is one key law, the Road Traffic Act, Chapter 13 of 11. Of course, there are other things that are mentioned in other laws, like what we call the RMT Act, the Road Motor Transportation Act, that regulates the licensing of passenger service vehicles. It stipulates the requirements of registration, one of which is to have insurance. So besides that, you can also make a claim under certain laws which are not the statute laws. There is a law that is called the law of delict, which law deals with what are called the civil wrongs, where somebody has wronged you. Assuming you are not able to make a claim under the Road Traffic Act for one reason or another, you can resort to this kind of law. Yes.
Okay, someone is coming through our WhatsApp platform, and please remember that if you want to send in your questions, your comments, you can send them via our WhatsApp platform on 0772 162 651. 0772 162 651. Someone says, I worked for a hospital and was many a time assigned to do extra duties which were not on my job description card cause of shortages at the hospital, and I ended up developing BP, which caused damage to my kidney in 2017, and I suffered redundancy and am struggling with my worsening situation with no one to help. Do I qualify for compensation for the renal damage? I think there is need for us to talk about these occupational accidents in the next episodes. Yeah, so I think we will park that for now, and then we will try and address this when we look at these occupational injuries. Okay, and so this one says, Hi, guys. I was once involved in an accident with a donkey, and I was told that I should look for the owner, and the owner was to compensate me. Apa zvakaitikira kuTanganda. I have a police report zvese zviripo.
Yes, these are some of the challenges that road users come across. You are involved in an accident, and then this is an animal, a stray animal. In terms of the law, the owner of the animal has a legal obligation to restrain his animals to make sure that they get onto the road. And then you are driving at night, and boom, you hit a donkey or a cow or a dog and something like that. But behind hindsight, you find that this person does not have enough money to compensate you. If you are a motorist, these are times when maybe you say, oh, I should have had a comprehensive insurance, because with comprehensive insurance, it will just assist you repair your car if possible or replace it, isn't it? In some countries, I'm sure this is also in the process in Zimbabwe. There are efforts to establish the road accident fund. I know in South Africa it's fully operational, such that in circumstances like these ones where somebody is injured, and then they always claim from the road accident fund in cases where either the insurance or the other party is unable to compensate.
And someone is asking, how long does it take to make a claim? This is Alan Shoko. Thank you so much for coming through with that question.
Yes, it's an easy question in a difficult way, in the sense that first of all, it always depends on how soon you respond as an injured person, or as a victim, or as a claimant, isn't it? And then a lot also depends on your paperwork. These days, some of the challenges that we come across are maybe that accidents occur in faraway places where people cannot easily access paperwork, or the paperwork is done slowly. Some clients have complained that motorists go behind and talk to the police in a nice way, and the papers are doctored to such an extent that they become what we call negligent pedestrians in law, isn't it? So all these are some of the challenges that affect the period. But by and large, I'm sure this depends on each and every insurance company, because I'm sure insurers are better placed to know how quickly they process. And I don't think it will be fair for me to start saying insurance company A, B, and C do this and that for those that I have dealt with. Yes.
Okay, and then let's look at a scenario where it's a hit and run. How do you deal with that? How do you make a claim? Or zvinenge zvavarana zvakadaro?
Not necessarily. I will go back to say that's why it in Mapurisa, isn't it? The job of the police, one of their key functions is to protect life and property. And in the process of protecting life and property, they carry out investigations. Even if it's a hit and run, there is always a way of getting to know the vehicle. That's why they investigate, they carry out an inquiry, trying to locate witnesses in the surrounding area. Who saw what happened? How did it happen? Maybe the description of the vehicle. Most of the time, it's always important to be alert to look at the vehicle registration number of a car that has been involved in an accident, isn't it? That's the most critical point. The rest of the details will always come later, isn't it? So, assuming nobody saw what happened, there is always other ways, forensic ways of carrying out investigations, maybe getting to know about the paint. When you hit something, there are always pieces that are thrown around. There could be vehicle parts, lights and what have you. All those little things, they tend to assist the police in getting to locate the vehicle that was. It's a long process, yes. It takes time. In some situations, these vehicles have been found. In some situations, they have not been found, or it took longer than expected. Yes.
And then someone is asking, he says, I was involved in an accident as a pedestrian. The accident was caused by what I believed to be negligent driving. I won the criminal case, but apparently the driver won the appeal. So he's saying the driver won the appeal at the High Court without his knowledge. I don't know how that happens. You will explain to us. Is it possible that if a case has been is before the courts, can someone then get a judgment against them without their knowledge, without being notified that on such a date, this is when the court is going to be sitting to hear your case?
Yes, bear in mind that this is an appeal and this is an accused person, isn't it? So when the case goes on appeal, this person is represented by the state, and the state has got a prosecutor, which prosecutor is this person's lawyer, isn't it? So he cannot say that he was not represented, because there is always the state counsel that goes to justify why there was a conviction or otherwise, isn't it? So, and yet this motorist who is an accused person probably has got his own lawyer as well. So these are the two parties that appear at the High Court. Yes, most of the time the victim is never there. Yes, to hear the appeal.
But then something is coming out on his question that on the issue on technicalities, because here you're just a lay person. You don't even know, even when statements are being made or taken by the police, you don't even know what to say, what is going to be important to the courts. You don't know. So he goes on to say, I sued for 20,000, and now the bus company I cited says, he says, because I said trading as, so now they're saying you sued the wrong one. You were not supposed to. So I think these are technicalities. How do you go around that?
These are cases that are common. Before you sue, the important thing is to go. There is what is called the Registrar of Companies in Zimbabwe. This is a public office. Before you can sue a company, you are allowed to go and check and make sure that you have proper details. I'm sure the law also requires bus companies to display their details. Every bus, every passenger service vehicle has got an inscription of who they are, their address, and where they can be located. So step number one is always to be always vigilant. Unfortunately, sometimes we are always in such a hurry, we don't take time to record some of these things, because we always think, no, I don't think something is going to happen, isn't it? So to answer his question is, go to the Registrar of Companies, isn't it? Go and find out who this bus company is, isn't it? Maybe it's Mlauzi Transport Services, but get to know who they are.
Yeah, we are fast running out of time, but it looks like so many questions are coming through on our WhatsApp platform. Mumwari kuti ko munhu akadhumwa then munhu amudhuma otiza. I think maybe abatira nyaya pakati tamboitaura ye hit and run. Anzi should anzi when they are reporting you report to who uchiti waitwa sei. I think ndo zvari kuda kunzwisisa. Then this one says ndakaita accident ndiri muopen truck yakarohwa neimwe mota ndikawira pasi mota ndizvudzurudza pasi about 100 meters yakatozomira yadhuma imwe mota ndakakuvara muviri wangu and ndakatyoka bhonzo ndikatoiswa simbi. Munhu akandidhuma haana chaakandiitira ndakazvirapisa. Nyaya yakaiswa kucourt at first. Witness anga asingauyi pakazotsvagwa witness hanzi akuuya wekundidhuma haachauyi kucourt. Mupurisa kuti akuivharisa nyaya yacho. Ndoita sei? Ndofanira kuenda kupi kuti ndiwane help? Ndatova neinjury yeupenyu hwese. Rimwe gumbo rava pfupi handichatofambi long distance. Okay. I think manzwisisa mubvunzo wake wekuti challenge yekuti vari kungoenda kucourt but then witness haachawanikwa. Poitwa sei pakadaro?
Yes, the starting point kuenda kuna officer in charge of the station and then see how best they can help you. Probably there is a reason why this witness is not coming to court. Basa rikutsvaga mawitness nderamapurisa. Yes, and then also get to understand, find out from the prosecutors what the challenge is. When a witness cannot be found, cannot come to court, I'm sure there are processes and procedures to ensure that they attend court. A witness can always be given a warrant of arrest in deserving circumstances so that they are compelled to come to court. If they just choose not to, they can actually be arrested. Yes, and so that they will be forced to attend court. So I think he mentioned quite a number of issues there. The other issue has to do with obviously his disability, the need for compensation. The question is he aware if this vehicle was insured, and did he make efforts to seek compensation? Although I have seen many times people jump into these open trucks because of transport problems. The challenge then becomes, when you are injured like this, the question is, was this a passenger service vehicle? Yes, because remember the way the law tries to protect both the driver and the person, isn't it? That's why tambotanga kutaura kuti as users of motor vehicles, as passengers, let's be vigilant.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I know zvakawanda zvatiri kuda kuti tikurukure panapa, but nguva dzedu ndo dzamhanya. We would have loved to really go deep with this issue. Gweta redu richititsanangurira kuti ndezvipi, but what we will do, we will continue this conversation next week. Tichiita wrap up and then tova tachibata nyaya dzema occupational accidents. Sevamu vambobvunza paye. We've got a note of your question tichazotanga nayo kuidaira patinoendera mberi nechirongwa svondo rinouya.